Hey guys, welcome back to another book preview video. This week we've got Vanishing Perspective for Comics from the Ground Up. So a quick look at the cover, front and back. Sorry it is a little bit glossy, so the lighting does reflect it a lot. So getting straight into this, let's see if we can find the contents to pause that for you guys for a second. A little bit about the author there. There you go. So I'll leave that up for a second if you guys want to pause the page and have a proper read through, see what's included. So this book is actually one that I've owned for quite a while. I want to say I'm not even going to bother trying to guess how long, but it's one of the first art books I actually bought. I probably didn't read it front to back like I should have done. It's one of those things, when it comes to perspective, we all know that we have to learn it as artists, but we pretty much get like a basic grasp on it and then leave it at that. Or that's the way it was for me. It's one of those things, it's a little bit boring to learn compared to other subjects, especially when you are working with like geometry. Understandably that's how perspective has to be taught, but yeah, it's not as interesting as other books, unfortunately. And that's not reflective of this book specifically, by the way, that's just my opinion on perspective. But as mentioned, it has to be learned, it is important. And this book, whilst it mentions being aimed at comic book artists, it is absolutely for everyone, so don't let that put you off. And it's actually one of the most thorough books for teaching it, I find. And I decided I'd record a video on this, which is one of the newer perspective books out there. It's a little bit different, it's a little bit more freehand drawn. It does still include shapes, but it's not as, I would say it's not as neat, but not in a bad way. I recently finished reading that one. I do have a book preview of that one. It's quite a popular one. I will put links on the screen and in the description box below to that. I finished that one recently and I thought it was actually very good, but there wasn't a lot in it. It was only volume 1, volume 2 still being written. And I can tell whilst it's very useful, it does have a lot missing compared to a book like this. So I thought it'd be quite a good time to get this one previewed on camera as well. So I could see from the contents that it covers everything like 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, I think it said 4 point perspective as well. But it has been so long that I don't remember the whole details of this book. But there is a specific reason why I like this book compared to other perspective books. So one thing I've always looked for when it comes to perspective is how to put a character into space. So yeah, it's easy enough working with geometry. And obviously that geometry has to sort of transfer across onto drawing people, and some people maybe pick that up really easy. Maybe they don't need guidance for that. And whilst I do understand it to a basic degree, I've always struggled with characters in perspective, individual limbs and things like that, or I would at least like to improve them, definitely. So I've looked online a few times and I've not found many people discussing it properly. But this book, and it's actually this page that caught my attention, that brought this to mind, talks about people in perspective. It's got a little bit more of a deeper breakdown than other books. So this is kind of my favourite part of the book. Again, it's maybe not complex, but it's quite a good way of looking at it. And you can see how they use these shapes and examples throughout then. So this is why I actually think this book's really useful. I know when I searched online, I found other people asking for this kind of resource without any answers, unfortunately. I know that the Andrew Loomis book does have something about putting people into perspective, and there is some content out there, don't get me wrong, but I found it's a little bit more difficult to find than other subjects, especially when it comes to perspective. And it even has 5 point perspective. So I am just talking and I'm not even taking in what I'm showing, but hopefully you guys are. It's quite a decent sized book. It's got, let's see how many pages. It's got over 125 pages. The illustrations in them are alright. I mean, it's not going to blow your mind, but it definitely portrays and sort of shows perspective, which is what you want in a book like this. And I think that comic books are probably quite a good example and even quite a good way to learn perspective. Especially when you look at like the cover and you see all the buildings and everything like that, different fight scenes, how to include people in perspective as mentioned. So I thought I would show this one on camera and hopefully you guys might find it useful. Like most perspective books, it does start off a little bit more basic, and then as you work your way through, it talks into more advanced subjects and angles. I think it's one of those things you don't necessarily need to know it, depending what kind of illustrations you learn. But it's definitely worthwhile trying to get at least a basic understanding of it. I find personally that perspective books are the kind of books that I often have to refer back to and reread, even if I don't get through them every time. And there are quite a few out there, don't get me wrong, but this is definitely one of the more well-known ones. So we are coming to the end of the book there. Hopefully me talking away throughout the video hasn't scared anyone off. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed this video, or at the very least found it quite useful. If you did, make sure you leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think to this one if you already have it. And also help others out in the comments. If you could recommend any other perspective books that you prefer, let us know. Aside from that, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on for future content. Thanks so much for watching, everyone.